One of the common questions that I always get when I tell somebody like what I've been doing for the last year and a half is, I don't know how you can do that. How do you survive homelessness, and how have you survived it for so long? Because there's a lot of things that when you are housed up that you think about, oh, you know, I got to deal with the heat, I got to deal with the rain, I got to deal with all these things. And so people sit there and they're baffled the fact that I'm still healthy, I'm living well, I'm in the best shape of my life, and you know I'm doing pretty good, and they want to know how I survived. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you some of the things that will happen naturally, long term, the longer that you become homeless. Because whether you are a prepper preparing for SHTF or preparing to bug out, or whether you're a homeless person who is looking at what's going on in the cities and saying, I need to travel, being in the city is going to be more dangerous for you, these are some things to be able to consider. But look at this. Who wants to sleep next to a waterfall tonight? One of the first things that people always worry about is like, how do you deal with the rain? Well, it depends upon where you're at and what you're doing, but there's always some form of cover. Now, being here on the American Discovery Trail, when you're in the forest, the canopy is so thick that a heavy rain doesn't really make it down. You get a few drops on you as you're walking, but you're constantly moving all the time anyways. And it's actually pretty rare that you come across rain because of how much you're constantly moving, unless there's an area that's just being bombarded by rain for long periods of time. I generally don't get to see rain unless like I stop for a couple of days. It's just the way it goes. Whereas if I'm doing a road walk, yesterday we were able to get under a bridge. Look at this. You can see the rain. And as you can see, I'm under a bridge and I'm using that for my backing. I'm staying dry so far, but this is gonna raise the river a couple of inches. Let's hope it makes it over to a little bit more west, because the farmers over there need it too. But missing that 3 inches, oh, I think here it comes. Another thing that has really helped me survive long-term homelessness is my ability to communicate. A lot of people don't really have that skill. They have a little bit of that skill and they can get by just because they understand social cues and social norms. But most of my life has been in either technology or in sales. And so for me, I have had to hone in those skills, and so therefore I get to use those to my benefit when I'm going through different areas. Because as society breaks down, as things get a little bit more dangerous, you've got to be able to talk your way out of a situation, be able to break down barriers and gain trust quickly, especially if you're needing something as simple as access to the creek, or knowledge of like, how do I get here and how do I get there? Because the locals, they want you to just go through. They don't want, unless you're there to spend money and you're just a tourist, they really don't want you staying in their city, just because they don't want the extra traffic that's going to be not productive. So it's in their interest to help you get through, but if you don't give them a good enough reason to give you direction, they're going to give you directions that get you out on the main road so that you can get completely out of their community. So being able to build trust and to be able to build this type of rapport with people is extremely important. Just because we're doing a road walk doesn't mean it's not interesting. I've got to see some amazing things because Google is taking me a different direction. So right now we're on a rail trail, and I'm willing to bet that this rail trail will take me to the next city, which is Richmondale, and that's where we're going to pick up the last 5 miles of trail into Londonderry. A lot of people ask me, how do I deal with the heat? And the heat is probably something that for most people they think of, and that's a big deterrent in being able to go outside, especially with as hot as these summers are. And I will tell you, in my experience, that your body actually becomes acclimated. It's going to take a couple of months, and you're going to be dealing with you'll get so used to the heat that when it starts cooling down, that at 75 degrees you're starting to shiver because you're getting cold. I have gotten to the point, even though I've moved as far north as I possibly can, that even though it's getting really, really hot during the summer, when it drops below 75, I notice it, because there's also a 20-degree swing. And when you're going into a climate controlled area, you're going from like 90 degrees into 65-degree air conditioned dwelling. Well, your body is conditioned to that 65 degrees. And so, yeah, it's going to make it feel a lot more extreme on you. But if you're used to being out in the 90 degrees, when all of a sudden the breeze comes in and you'll feel like a temperature drop of 1 to 2 degrees, all of a sudden your core temperature just kind of goes down with it, in the same way you would with natural air conditioning. Your body will eventually become acclimated to it. And it will make it so it's much easier. I'm able to deal with the heat a lot better than Sam is, because I've been out here a lot longer. She's getting better at it, but she's more acclimated to the cold because I had her over the winter, and so she's getting her body used to being able to transition between one or the other. It does take time, and you do need to be aware of what it is that you're doing, but eventually the misery index goes away. And you're just going and trucking. It's like you get so used to it's like if you walk with a limp, after a while it just becomes so normal you don't even think about it. That's kind of the way the weather works out here, and that's a big reason why the heat and a lot of this stuff doesn't bother me in the way that it bothers the average person, because they're used to a climate controlled environment.
I think this is interesting for being a shelter, because I think this is the only place to camp. If you look, trail just goes right through it. I'm presuming that this is a camp spot.
Another thing that people are always baffled about is my eating it, especially when I'm on trail or when I'm doing anything long distance, unless I'm riding a bus or hopping a freight train, which is very rare these days. I generally, I'm always hiking or walking wherever I go. Now, sometimes I will get a ride, but it's very rare. I don't really ask for them. If people pull up and say, hey, you want a ride? Which town you going to? Where can I drop you off at? Definitely. But in general, we're walking 15 to 25 miles a day, depending upon the environment, the terrain, and all of that stuff. And a lot of people sit there and say, well, how can you do that? And a lot of it has to do with diet. But my diet really isn't the best thing that there is, because I don't eat while I'm on the road. I actually struggle. I carry all the food, but I struggle to sit down and eat, because my brain is, I need to get from here to there, and I need to get there as quickly as possible. It's part of the instant gratification that's ground into us as a society, and so that plays out in the way that I travel. And then therefore I don't eat much, I'm not sleeping much, I'm not doing a lot of those things. And to the average person, that would be really, really hard to be able to deal with. Sleep deprivation is the quickest way to break your mind down. Starvation is a quick way to lose energy, and yet I still keep going, even though I'm probably eating about 1,500 calories a day when I really need to eat about 4,000. And yeah, I do feel hunger a lot, but I just don't care enough to sit down and make a meal. Part of it is just when you're by yourself and you don't have anybody else to cook with, you also lose your motivation. It's why a lot of bachelors just go out to eat versus sitting at home cooking a meal, because it's much harder to cook for one person than it is to cook for 2 or 3 people. Okay, and because just the way that the portions, even that you get at the store, with eggs or bacon or anything like that, you got to find, I want 4 eggs, 2 for me, 2 for Sam. I don't need a full dozen. And the store doesn't sell 4 eggs unless I go to like something like that. But the thing is that your body becomes acclimated to that as well. Although I go 3 or 4 days eating very minimal, just trying to hold down whatever it is that I can, I end up, once I get to a place where I'm static, then that's when I kind of refill up my energy levels. I sit back and I will eat extra. And so I'll make up for a lot of what I didn't eat once I get to a point where I'm static, because I have the energy and the desire to sit back and make something new. So like tonight, Sam and I are going to have we're gonna have chili dogs, because chili dogs is really good. It gives you all the protein, really fills you up, and it will stick with you for a couple of days if you don't really let your body go on a lot to begin with. the thing is you will end up conditioning your body. It's not going to be as hard as you think it is. You will end up conditioning your body to become what it is that you need it to do, but you also have to be conscious enough to listen to it. So sometimes I pull muscles because I'm either carrying too much weight because I'm not eating my food, and I have other things, and people just keep giving me stuff, and I keep saying, yeah, sure, not a problem. And it's either that, or I just push myself really hard and I'm not eating rice like I should, because rice is a big part of my diet. It's something that I try and eat as regularly as possible because it is really good for keeping my muscles going and primed. And so therefore I make sure to, do my own little additives and mixtures and stuff like that for it. But rice and carbs, and then being able to have a little bit of meat along the way makes a big difference on top of everything else that I eat, such as granolas and other bars and things like that. So but I spend most of my day eating little snack foods. Like I have these, okay, I have these, I have these, okay, and this will last me a couple of days. But it's something that I can eat while walking. I don't have to prepare. It gives me calories, it gives me the salts, it gives me the different minerals and vitamins and things like that, so that I can keep going. Now, in a lot of ways, it's empty calories, but to be able to give your body the fuel and the energy, sometimes you've got to eat empty calories, because the sugar and the carbs are what's allowing your body to continue going. And back in the day, when they really didn't have a lot of food for the homeless, most of the food that they would give you was high in sugar, because they knew that they needed to give you something that was sustainable. And since all they had was you could get one donut, they gave you the sugariest donut that they could, so that sugar would kind of supplement what it is that you were missing throughout the day. Because sometimes you'd hear stories of mystery stew, which is they'll put a boot in there and boil the boot with a couple of vegetables and say, hey, this is mystery stew. So your body will eventually become acclimated to the whole situation.
I was talking to a farmer, and he was asking me how far down I was going. I was telling him, and he's like, hey, if you walk down about a mile, there's a Y, which actually is more like a T intersection. You'll see straight ahead, something's carved out. There's an outhouse, there's everything else. See, hikers welcome, no hunting, all that. But sometimes you don't learn about things on trail until you get out on trail. But if you look through there, let's see, that is the outhouse. Cool.
Thank you for watching, guys. I hope that you learned something. I hope that this kind of gave you some sort of a peace of mind, knowing that when the whole world goes apart and you have just the bare minimum on your back, and your house is on your back, and you got to get out there and get on the road for one reason or another, that you can survive it. Yeah, it may be a little bit miserable to begin with, but you can survive it. Your body is a fine-tuned machine, and a lot of these biological instincts will kick in, and you will be able to survive off of a lot less. I think a lot of the reason why we eat so much as a society and consume so much in the wrong things and are out of shape is because not only do we live in a climate controlled environment, which does not force our body to do anything, but we also live a very docile, sedentary lifestyle, where we're sitting behind a desk or something like that. So your body has not been trained for it, because you basically left the machine dormant. Once you start using a machine, just like a car, first time you got to warm it up, after a few years of sitting, it's going to sputter. And then as you get it and you keep running it down the road, it's going to work out a lot of those kinks, because it's going to flow through and kind of build its own momentum. And so if you guys like this type of stuff, don't forget to subscribe, share. I'd love to hear your comments down in the comments section. And everything else is, if you want to help us out financially, it's all also down in the description. And I will see you in next week's video.